and welcome back to me explaining fucking zombies with fire in front of me. Can you believe this? We got a fire. So we're gonna start with Revelations. We left off at Revelations. We're gonna start with Revelations. So Revelations is where shit really gets fucking crazy in this. So basically, Rick Toffin, after retrieving all the souls, he goes to Agartha, and you ain't seen Agartha at all before in any of them. And you're like, what's Agartha look like? It just looks like fucking like it's just green hills and pastures and shit. It's fucking boring. So then you got fucking Agartha. That shit needs to get chill for a sec. So they get to Agartha, and Rick Toffin reveals what he's going to do with the summoning key and these souls. And he releases these souls in Agartha to create child versions of all the characters other than Samantha and Rick Toffin who are already there. And it's like, alright, that's cool, I guess. I don't know why you wanted children. And so, basically the Shadow Man explains to them, hey, you know, I've been around for so many years, and the battle between... No, that's not what happens. I'm lying. He explains the war between the Dark Ether and the Ether to Rick Toffin and the Premise crew, and I've just been told by my producer that I have to consume. So, fuck, man. Dr. Monty, which is also Malcolm McDowell. So Malcolm McDowell's telling these guys, like, the whole war story. And Maxis is there and Agartha because Dr. Monty retrieved him because he saw him as an asset. So he's there and he's like, Dr. Maxis is like, hey, I'm all good, you know? Remember when you cut my brain out? And Rick Toffin's like, thank God I love you in this timeline. And, you know, they're there and they got the babies from the summoning key, the kids' versions of themselves. And Maxis starts fucking with the summoning key. And he sets this beacon out, basically, to all the powers of the Dark Ether, the Agarthans. That's what they call themselves. The good Agarthans are called the Keepers. We'll just call them that. So, he sets out this homing beacon, basically, to the fucking Agarthans, man. And then they all show up in Revelations, and they fuck everything up, and they like merge all of these realities into one. And the Dr. Monty's like, dude, you guys fucked up a lot of shit. And so then they're there at Revelations, they do all the Revelation shit, and Rick Toffin's like, hey, remember these blood vials I was collecting? So basically, Dr. Monty has this thing called the Chronorium, which is like a book that knows all, and it tells all the future and shit. It tells the timeline story, the story of the timeline. And he's like, you know how the Chronorium said that, like, we have to wipe ourselves, basically, for all this to end? Well, these blood vials will make it to where we can still exist in this reality while wiping other realities if we drink these blood vials of ourselves. And so they drink the blood vials, and Dr. Monty's like, are you guys fucking stupid? That's not what you're supposed to do at all. Don't do that. And they're like, well, sorry, you know, Rick Toffin seemed like he had a plan. And the plan wasn't too good. Because Dr. Monty just has the power. And he sends them back to fucking Origins to do the Great War shit all over again, where they wield the staves and they stop the Great War. And they go on to do all this shit. They send them back into an endless loop. And you're like, what the fuck? What a fucking dick. So which then starts Black Ops 4. Where, you guys know the Chaos Crew with the Titanic map? It doesn't fucking matter. We're not talking about that. Fuck that shit. So, yeah. They get sent back to Origins, okay? And they do that, and then that's when you figure out that, I believe it's called Declassified, right? Producer man isn't called, okay. declassified, the redo of 5. They go back to 5, and you figure out that this is where they go after Origins. And this is following the exact same timeline as the Origins timeline. They're stuck in this loop. And Black Ops 4, oh, I didn't even write Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4. So you got declassified. And you're like, cool, it's a fucking 5 remaster. Yippee-ki-yay. And, huh? Seven? 9?
Look how you put 4 in Roman numerals.
Black Ops. So, they're declassified. Why they're declassified? So what they're trying to do is, this is one of the timelines. This is them trying shit. So after Origins, they go declassified in this timeline, and they're trying to figure out the location of the original crew, which is our Ultimus, right? Ultimus, yeah, the OG boys. So they're like, they're trying to figure out the location of the Ultimus crew. They figure out the location. Fucking boring. Yippee, yippee, yay. So then you got, what's it called? Alpha Omega? Yeah, Alpha Omega. Yeah, so then you get Alpha Omega, which is Newtown zombies from Black Ops 2. And you're like, why'd they do that map? So in Alpha Omega, it takes place before Transit does. And you figure out that the CDC and the FBI weren't the ones to free Marlton. It was actually the Ultimus and the Primus crew. Because after declassified, they figure out that the crew from Moon is at Groom Lake, which they find the crew from Moon at Groom Lake, and they're all basically insane because they've been held hostage, because none of these people seem to exist because they're all from the fucking 40s. And so, we need beans. So, what was that? Both of these crews, they combine their efforts to set out and go to Newtown for answers. And in the process, they free Marlton. They find the Avogadro experiment from Transit. Remember that fucking electric cunt? Yeah, they find him there and they let him free. And that's basically all that happens on that map. They just kind of figure out some more shit on there. It's just, yeah. So that one's done. The next one's when shit actually kind of kicks off, and it's actually kind of cool. So I go there, it's kind of useless. Just kind of fills in some backstory. So then there's Blood of the Dead. And this is when they return back to I almost said Arkham Asylum, to Alcatraz Island. And this one is just the Primus crew. They decide to tell the other crew to kick it next to their campfire place, wherever that is. And they're like, we're gonna go back to this old facility I had on Alcatraz Island. Richtofen goes there, in which Richtofen made a deal with the warden to build a facility there. And yeah, remember the warden from Mob of the Dead? In which, in the process, he made a deal with the Chronorium, because what happened was when they returned to Blood of the Dead, it's an alternate timeline to where the cycle was broken by Weasel, because in Black Ops 2 you can do two options. Either all three of you can kill Weasel, and that's the original ending, but in this timeline what happens is Weasel kills the other three, which corrupts everything, which lets the Dark Ether take over the whole island. And so when he returns to speak to the Warden about the laboratory he had built under the island, the Warden blocks off their portal to Garad Krovi, which is where he has to go to get the last blood vial, Richtofen. Because at this point they're jumping around. These take place in between the maps and Black Ops 3. Supposedly. Is it starting to rain? And so Richtofen.
Bro, it is.
It is.
Hurry
Fuck.
up.
So then, fuck. So then Richtofen goes back here to retrieve some shit and search his lab, and you find these 4 frozen chambers, and you're like, what are these chambers? And you figure out it's the fucking Victus crew, it's the transit crew, it's those guys. And basically, like, after buried, Richtofen was still in contact with Stuhlinger. He basically led them to this Primus Richtofen, who promised them that they would be able to live if he just kept listening to them, and he would freeze them in capsules and just kind of use them whenever he was ready to use them. So he returns here, and basically the Warden, he doesn't know that the Warden's evil now, and so they end up in this fight with the Warden. And the original Primus timeline, Richtofen appears out of nowhere, and Richtofen goes to sacrifice himself in this machine, and the original Richtofen's there from the Primus timeline, not original, but the Origins one, the very first one, and he was contacted by Maxis. Maxis contacted him through the ether when he was in Agartha from an alternate dimension and told him that they were stuck in an infinite loop, and that the blood vial strategy was just going to continue keeping them in this infinite loop. And so in the process, they kill that Richtofen with them and decide to take upon the Richtofen from Origins with them, which received this vision from Maxis. And they decide, okay, we don't need that Richtofen. It's really fucking sad. They kill Richtofen, but take new Richtofen. New Richtofen destroys the blood vials, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, that was the whole strategy the whole time. What are they gonna do now? Also, they free the Mob of the Dead crew from their mortal chains or whatever. And so yeah, that's Blood of the Dead. And then you got what's the last map called, John? Where you're back at Call of the Dead. That's the only one I don't remember.
I don't remember neither. Look it up. Hurry up. It's raining hard now. We got like 5 minutes maybe.
I know.
Call of the Blood, Blood of the Dead, no. Fuck, dude. I got the fucking like power strips covered right now, but
Oh, tagged or totem. Alright. So then, after Blood of the Dead, they all leave the Blood of the Dead thing, and they have this plan to stop the ether between Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man, and you have to help Dr. Monty, and you have to defeat the evil, and we're the only thing that can do it. Now, Dr. Monty, you think he's good, and he gets word of Dr. Maxis saying this shit to fucking pass Richtofen, but not super pass Richtofen, the cool Richtofen. And so then he fucking kills Dr. Maxis, and you're like, what the fuck, bro? You're kind of evil, low-key. And so then they're like, we're gonna fucking kill everybody. Fuck the Dark Ether and the Ether. And so then both crews, the Ultimus and the Primus crew, are like, we're gonna fight everything. And they decide to gear up for their last battle, you know, in their fucking campfire woods. And then you get Tagder Toten, which is what we've been talking about. In which you realize that the Victus crew comes back in contact with Richtofen, which was zombified in Black Ops 2. He comes to them through the Richtofen that was sacrificed in Blood of the Dead. It basically re-embodies him into the ether. It's where he's able to talk to Stuhlinger again, and he releases them from their cryo chambers to return to the Call of the Dead facility in Siberia to end everything, basically. And so the Victus crew from Transit, it's a cool return, I guess. I don't know. And they come back, and they're doing all these steps for this guy that lives in the tower. He's called the Hermit, but also his name's Pablo. But we'll get to him. So then they do these steps for him. They listen to Richtofen. They do all the steps for the Hermit, and at the end of the Easter egg, the Hermit basically uses them to teleport himself through time back to Origins. And you figure out his name is Pablo, and he documents the Great War during Origins. And you're like, well, who the fuck's Pablo? How is he important? Back in the Siberia facility, when everyone was abducted back in World at War by evil Richtofen and having their minds wiped, Pablo, he was Hispanic, and he was from Mexico, and he was also kidnapped. Pablo was, and he had his mind wiped too. And so he eventually regained his memory after the moon shit like everyone else did. And so he realized he had to regroup with, you know, the other people he was tortured by, and by teleporting himself back to Origins where he was able to document everything and help them. So at the end of Tagger Toten, you're like, well, what? They did that. So then how does that help the Ultimus and the fucking Primus crew? Well, basically, in the Chronorium that the new Richtofen gave Nikolai in Blood of the Dead, Nikolai saw that within the Chronorium the only way to end everything was by killing themselves. So he fucking poisons everyone, and then he has little Samantha and little Edward Richtofen fucking kill him so they never exist. And then they walk off pretty much happily into this like sunlight thing, and you don't know what it is because after killing them nothing exists, literally, because without them nothing exists. No storyline would be, none of this shit would have happened. And so they wiped the storyline by killing themselves, and you know, you're just gonna have to wait until Black Ops Cold War to figure out what the fuck happens, because you know, we don't know, and shit's wild. So thanks for watching. That was a fucking Black Ops storyline. That was a lot. We had a lot going on there, and it's raining, and it's cold, and the fire's going out, and thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought down below. Did I teach you anything? Am I wrong? Am I right? I don't fucking know. Thanks for watching. We love you. Goodbye.